Welcome everyone to Play to Your Best masterclass series, a summit that we are bringing together experts in mindset, nutrition, training, recovery to support you in this life stage of perimenopause or in the beyond or the getting ready to be in perimenopause because you can't do it too early. Really, right? Like, let's get strong is going to be the message today. We have the incredible, the beautiful Erin Carson. Welcome.
It is great to be here. Thank you. And just let's get it on. Let's do some good work today.
Let's do this. Well, okay. So people know where you're coming from and what you're all about is you own RallySport in Boulder, Colorado.
Yep.
It is an incredibly beautiful facility. I love it. I've been fortunate to experience the weight room and the pool. That's where I've, been and enjoyed it. And it's this beautiful facility, the really welcoming, warm. So if you happen to fall upon yourself, if you're training or just traveling and you're there, then definitely check it out. And you can, go and get some of this good vibes there. You also have an incredible online community that is really strength training, mobility. Maybe I should let you talk about it, but I'm going to just share my athlete's experience with you because I think that it'll be a testament. So my athlete has been training with you, Tanya, for over a year now, well over a year. And she is, I have a strength program in my training program, but yours is amazing. And of course we want to lift this up, and she is resilient. She continues to do it. She's balanced. She has the ability to move and shift. And it's such a testament to the work that you're doing, to your knowledge about the human body, to the female body, to the bringing it from health to performance. And I just see the result in my athlete who I adore. And so thank you for that work and for bringing it out to globally. What you're doing. And so if people are looking for a strength program that is, that's something that might be missing, I encourage you to check out ECFIT. There you go. Is there anything I'm missing?
Oh, we're missing so much, but we've got like 55 more minutes to get into it.
We have a lot. We have a lot to get into it. Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is this idea of lift heavy. And specifically, what we want to do is we're going to go from health and into performance. And what sort of things do we need to think about in terms of this idea of lifting heavy for our health? And then how do we bring it through and weave it through into a program, an endurance program that is also, we care about our health, we care about our bone health, we care about maintaining our muscles, but we also have a load of endurance and sport specific training so we can actually get to our race. And knowing that tug and that push and the pull for how do we incorporate strength training into our endurance training, and how do we think about our health and our performance. So that's where we're going, everybody. So let's first talk about, maybe just so we get all on the same page, lifting heavy. And what does that mean to you? And how do we think about it for our health? And then how do we think about it for performance?
And this is probably a good time for me to just kind of talk how I started digging a little bit deeper into the whole perimenopause, menopause community.
Yeah.
I got a little frustrated with that topic. I got a little frustrated because specifically, and she has become a very good friend, a mentor, and I think she blows people out of the water daily, Dr. Stacy Sims. Mm-hmm. I was like, Stacy, you're sending out a message about health and performance and women and lifting heavy, but we're only telling part of the story. And as a strength coach, I think there's more layers to it. And her and Celine Yeager, both, who are just wonderful. I mean, I don't know where everybody is now. We're all trying to drive our own ships and help as many people as we can. But I do think we have that landing place together. of wanting to help. And from my perspective, because I do it every single day on the front lines with women, with men, with kids, like just all different ages and stages of life, which can bring on a level of appreciation that even my 30-year-old badass females who are in the prime of everything, or my late 20s, I want them to be able to transition into that perimenopausal time of life in a really the most healthful, understood, not mystery, not trial and error. They have direction and purpose in every time they walk into the gym. So we started talking a little bit more, Stacy and I, about periodization and how you cannot expect 365 days a year to lift heavy. And you can't really expect every other day. Like, let's just take it in half and say, okay, 180 some 7.5 days, I'm going to lift heavy, because the body doesn't work that way. So then we started talking about what does it take to even teach somebody the skills that we need to do to lift heavy, and how does that play into health? And then we started resonating with this really highly motivated group of women and men and young people who want to excel and find their best at endurance sports, whether it's running a marathon or running a 10K or running their first 5K and wanting to run a marathon or dreaming of racing in Kona. How do those things fit together? And I think that's what you were kind of alluding to. So I'm being told to lift heavy for my health. Then I have these coaches who maybe don't specialize in menopause, perimenopause, but they're telling me that I need to do all of these interval training things if I want to get faster every Tuesday, 10 by 2 minutes on the treadmill. And how does that fit into my heavy day? And when do I lift if I'm going to work hard like that and I'm going to be exhausted and that kind of stuff? So everything started coming together with Stacy and I, and she helped me put together a program that was actually a 12-week program. We now have 2 series, series 1 and series 2, both using my delivery protocol applications that one is a long video format where you hear my voice. I do a lot of teaching, a lot of coaching, a lot of why behind the what we're doing. And then once you get through some of that foundational knowledge, then you can go into that short video format of here's your list of, and they still come with a little bit of video, but it's a little bit more efficient because you've become a little bit closer to an expert in the gym, and things can move a little quicker. So the format that the platform that I was able to present to Stacy and to her audience and to audiences like your audience, and then of course my athletes, it's made it accessible. And it's made it, wow, I don't feel trashed every day. And wow, I'm sleeping pretty well now. I'm not overtraining, or I'm not afraid or fearful of hurting myself, or I'm just not hurting myself, which is one of my biggest frustrations with people trying to move into heavy stuff, maybe a little bit too quickly when their body's not ready for it, or their skill level isn't ready for it. So all these different layers I'm looking to unfold and just kind of peel back the onion a little bit with you today and give people real life thought processes of how they can do it for themselves.
Brilliant. That's exactly. Keep going.
So that being said, we talk about goal setting and who we want to be as an athlete, and I think the first thing that any athlete needs to do is build a team around them. And there's different layers of financial availability and there's budgets that, meet with a trainer every day of the week. And then this is $20 a month, so you need to establish your budget. And then within that, you need to make sure that you have good guidance of somebody who's experienced and educated and maybe has a couple of letters behind their name. And that matters. Just because a person is fast or is a professional athlete doesn't mean they are a good coach. And that is probably first and foremost, is to really, when you're interviewing coaches, really dig into not only their education, but also their experience, talk to some of the athletes they've already coached and how that communication is and that kind of stuff. So choosing a sport coach should go beyond, you know, a friend's recommendation. Like you get referred to the coach, and then you have to interview that coach.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because it's something that is something that I am absolutely, that's what Project 51 is. It's a team. And so I have a strength coach that is got the letters. I mean, she's actually a professor at university, you know, pathophysiologist going and has athletic therapists. Like it goes on in her profession because I'm not that. And
we're not you. You know?
Yeah. Like
I'm okay. I'm very
skills.
comfortable as a strength coach. I definitely will have an opinion about and can talk it out because I'm an athlete as well, but I stay in my lane pretty well.
And how important that is, understanding of like we go to coaches. And I think it's just an interesting point that you're making. We go to coaches and there's an expectation of them like, okay, well, the coach will say, oh, I'm a holistic coach. And yes, I talk about nutrition. And so this is what you need to have on the run. Well, that's not nutrition. That's not even the beginning. That's not even the starting point. That's not nutrition. And being able to discern the difference of what sort of expertise are we actually looking for? And maybe you do have the nutritional understanding and guidance from previous, or, you know, this is where I think it's difficult is like, you know, economics do come into it. What is it like to have a registered dietitian, you know, or holistic nutritionist or whatever you're looking for, sport nutritionist, or then a strength coach, and then an actual endurance coach, and then a mindset coach. And what does that actually look like? And how are they putting it together and integrating?
And integrating it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest keys, because ultimately you are the CEO of you. And if you feel like your strength program is fighting with your training program, your sport training program, and that you will know that it's fighting if you're sore, if you're lacking motivation or confidence that you can achieve a training session, a key training session. And I think as sport coaches, you guys understand what are the key sessions this week. You got to nail that interval session. I really want you to work on that tempo session. And then I want you to feel good through your long run. Like everything else in between supports those 3 key sessions. Your strength program cannot interfere with those key sessions. You cannot be sore. I was just training an athlete yesterday. She's competing in the St. George 70.3 Worlds in the 55 to 59 age group. And she was like, yeah, Erin, you know why I love you so much? I'm never sore. And she, you know, there's a thought process of what defines a good strength session is you're sore. Well, that was amazing. I've been sore for 3 days. Like that's the best strength program ever. Well, I'm here to tell you that is one of the worst things that can happen. When a coach, even just through programming, is overloading a body that is already overloaded, or it's not prepared skill-wise, or it's not prepared physically to take on that kind of load. So you don't want your strength program to fight or interfere with your sport program when you are in an active training program for an event. So it's okay to be sore at different times, because anytime you're trying to get some physical response, you might cross the line a little bit and you might be a little bit sore. But in an active training program, I think that would be a bad thing.
Yeah, so I think where we're almost going here now is to bring us back to where you were going when I went off on that tangent a little bit, is okay. So you're talking, that is more going into what you've just specified as a performance-based, if you are actively engaging in a sport to get to a race, a goal, or something like that, right? So let's come back to where we were going there and where you were taking us. Okay, so we're building out this program, and let's stay in the health idea of, okay, making it appropriate and lifting heavy, the progression to understand how do we do that. And now we are looking at, all right, but I hear I need to keep tugging on my bones. Like I need that lifting heavy. So I'm now appropriately doing it. And don't I need to do that all year long? Because I don't want to lose my muscle. I get it. My bone health is super important to me.
Let's dial it back just a little bit by age so that people can really say, where am I? Perimenopause rate, let's just take a decade,
Yes.
which is giant, right? So 40 to 50.
Yeah.
You probably, between the ages of 40 and 50, have 3 amazing performances per year in that body. So a spring race, a summer race, and a fall race. You should expect to set some goals and hit some PRs, continue to improve 3 times a year. If you race 4 times a year or 5 times a year because you love racing, we start to talk about an A race or a B race or a C race, because we recognize the A races are where we're after the big improvement. And we can't be disappointed and fool ourselves that we're just going to improve every single time. Like a C race sometimes can be an amazing race, and we can go, what just happened?
What just happened?
And so I'm not saying that won't happen. But what I am saying is expectations and focus 3 times a year. Same thing with strength. 3 to 4 times a year, there should be one strong strength phase. And that can be anywhere from 4 weeks to 6 weeks. It could be like Stacy, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Like you can really build 3 to 4 times a year if you're a good athlete, because you're going to you'll have a higher capacity to recover from each training session if you're really active all year. So 3 to 4 times a year, you're going for big gains with strength. When we get into that next decade of 50 to 60 and then beyond, and 60 is kind of a different age for me as well, because different risk factors start to come in. Like, what have you done your whole life and where are we starting from? So I'll just talk to this audience really within 50 to 60, and then we can briefly talk about people that are just kind of going, I haven't really done anything my whole life and I'm 60 now and I'd like to do something. Like that's a different conversation. But when you're in 50 to 60, you should really expect to have 2 big A races, maybe one early summer and one at that championship season, like we're in right now, the fall. And that you can achieve that if you and I do believe even in your 50s and 60s, you can get better, you can get faster, you can get stronger. Some people who have been really fast when they were young, they have a different measurement tool. They might not get faster because they were so fast when they were young, so it's like, it's hard to say that 100 across the board. But for most of us, I mean, I'm a pretty good athlete. I'm 56, but I was a basketball player. And so I was fast for 90 feet. And I could play for however many minutes. I don't even know how long a basketball game is anymore. I think it was like 40 minutes, like 20-minute halves or something. But it was, I consider myself pre-seasoned as an athlete. So my expectation is that I will get faster at a half marathon and I will get faster at a half Ironman if I choose that, so how my lifting program supports that is when I am not in that. And you and I talked about this just earlier as we were preparing. I have 2 mindsets. I don't want to confuse myself because I'm smart, but I'm not that smart. If I had like 5 things to choose from, I'd get confused. So it's either or for me. I'm in a health mindset or I'm in a performance mindset. When I'm in my health mindset is when I'm going to take on my deadlifting phase, my back squat phase, my front squat phase, my power cleans that I have learned my whole life. I know I have high skill level with all of those lifts. I attack those in my health mindset. I'm not afraid to be sore. I might even tweak a hip or a back, because when you start lifting like that, there's reward, but there's also risk. And when I'm in a health mindset, not a performance mindset, I'm okay because I know I can heal from anything that might tweak. I'll heal because that's part of the process. And anybody that thinks that discomfort is not part of the process, is kind of fooling themselves as well. So health mindset. Then when all of a sudden I'll take on a performance mindset and okay, now I want to qualify for the world championships. I need to perform very well. I need to come in probably the top 3 in my age group. Then I start to dial back my strength work a little bit because I know that my sport coach is going to start loading me up with assignments. Those assignments are going to be interval runs, hard Zwift sessions on the bike, brick sessions where I'm going to ride hard on the bike, or I'm going to ride the bike and then immediately going to go run. I'm going to be up early in the morning swimming because I work. And so I'm going to be a little tired.
Yeah.
When you're fatigued, that risk goes up. And so should I be doing highly complex movements where I could hurt myself when I'm in a fatigued state? Perhaps not, so we have to start identifying. November 1st, I start performance mindset. I need to have a really good strength phase under my belt that was achieved in October so that I'm ready to now start training for my marathon or really training and focusing on my half Ironman. So you want to look at an annual calendar. And if you can even, nobody can see me, right? Like this is all
everybody can see you. Yeah.
Everybody can see me. So you can see that I have this annual calendar behind it. And so what I encourage most of my athletes to do is get an annual calendar, and we will actually map it out. When are the A races? When is the performance mindset begin? And when are the heavy phases? And so we map it out very easily. I love these calendars.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that it is a choices, right? Like I think especially now when I have an athlete now, it's like she's in cyclocross and then she wants to start the Zwift racing and then she wants to go into her spring session. And then I'm just like, we haven't ever come down. And it's really tough because so this actually brings up the perfect question. So say you want, so let's understand. So that's one type of athlete that's really working in a performance mindset, is that I want to actually get to my very best. I want to get to my best as a performance. There's another type of athlete. And this athlete is, I just like to play all the time. I don't really care how fast I am, to be really honest. I don't really I just want to show up. I love Zwift racing. I just want to keep on being out there in the woods. I just want to trail run. It's lots of fall, wonderful things to do. And then I'm going to do the spring sessions because it's finally, the daffodils are out and it doesn't matter. So then because what you're talking about within the body and what is so wonderful about an annual training plan is it gives us a variability. But if we are fitness minded, health minded all year round, then where are you? How are we seeing that push and that pull come in and out? And again, so it's like, I know, like Dr. Stacy Sims says, must lift heavy.
Right.
It's like, I need to lift heavy all the time. And then it's just like, I don't feel like lifting heavy right now because I've been doing it for so long. And then you need that variability. Or do you? And how do you? So tell us about that.
I think that Stacy's outline of 2 weeks on, 1 week off is a beautiful way to live. If you never did a race and you just wanted to ski and you wanted to hike and you wanted to be a great mom or a great wife or husband or whatever, 2 hard weeks of training and then 1 back week when you just don't use your Oura ring and you don't use your Garmin and you just relax. So we're talking about sympathetic drive and parasympathetic drive. I saw that you have your Oura ring. I'm currently in a 1 week off period. I took my ring off. I know that it sucks because I just flew home from Kona. I'm in this little bit of rebuild physical state, and then I'll get it back on next week as I get going again. But it's 2 weeks. You cannot go on. Or what ends up happening is you live in the middle. And for those people that are fine living in the middle, what they find, and where if I can get sustained relationships with people as a coach, you start to find that as you get older, that middle starts to decline. And when that happens, your friends who are younger, they're still going and you're getting tired and you're getting injured or you're getting sick or you're not sleeping well because you're in that fight or flight mode because you're just always fighting. And so there are always, the other thing we talked a little bit about, the bell curve. We all have our fast friends, our super people friends who have amazing genetics. They don't ever seem to be tired. Like they're super people. Well, even super people have bad days. Even super people are putting themselves at risk by not paying attention to recovery and rest, and how that plays with even just the goal of being in the middle. Because as we get older, we still want to stay at that same middle. So our bodies are changing. And I think this is where we start to get into this menopause conversation or this perimenopause. We have to accept that they're changing. I don't have to accept a decline in performance though. And then I have to have strategies in place from people like you and our podcasts like this, so that in my mid 50s and in my early 60s, I don't start acting that way. I don't start accepting the decline. Well, because so many doctors are saying, well, that's just the way it is. Yeah. That's never been okay with me. You know?
I think that you make such a perfect point, because it's something that I talk about too in some of my master classes. Like we have become so used to suboptimal. It's like, we don't know. And one of the foundation things that I teach and am building knowledge on is like, what is intensity? Because I think that it's like this idea of like, I got a hard workout. And I'm like, you don't know what's hard, because you can't get a hard workout because you're so fatigued all the time.
Yeah.
And understanding that as we get older, we actually need more rest to be able to get that stimulus from the strength session or from the intensity session. And if it's cardiovascular, or, and creating more space so that we are just like, oh, wow, I don't have to be slower. I don't have to be less than I was before, because we actually have been able to recover sufficiently and stimulate from a place of not suboptimal. Right. And get
absolutely. Because even when you look at, even if you just look at sprint interval training, there's a lot of chat around sprint interval training. It is a skill to run fast like that.
It is a skill. Oh man.
You have this vision in your mind. Like the one that really comes up to me, I don't know, some social media thing. It was, actually, no, it was when I was getting certified to teach body pump. And they were like, don't do it in the mirror, because you have this visual. I'm Britney. I like Britney Spears when I'm dancing. And then the reality hits of what you really look like when you dance. And so you have this visual of yourself, like when I'm sprinting and I was filling the lane as a 2-guard and I'm sprinting down the lane. If you asked me to do that right now, I swear to God, I would pull both hamstrings, like all my hamstrings, all 6 of them are just like broken in half. But if I took a 3-week period and I started to sprint, which I'll do it in the dark because God, it's not going to be pretty. And I would probably do it uphill because it's safer. 10-second sprints. Yeah. And by the 3rd week, I bet they would be way better. The rhythm and timing of my movement would be better. My brain would be faster. My nervous system is now performing at a higher level. But I gave myself 3 weeks to achieve what Erin can actually look like sprinting and how fast Erin can actually run.
It's such a brilliant point. I do inside testing. So looking at metabolic testing, and it's through an online amazing software. And after doing many tests, I came to understand that I needed to actually develop a program for people to prepare for the test.
Yes.
And because there was no way that I was getting accurate results from the tests if I hadn't brought up, like, if you don't know how to do a VO2 max or a sprint, you're going to, the whole point of the test, all that money you just spent on this incredible analysis, just throw it out in the toilet.
The last time I did a lactate test, a blood lactate test, They had to shut it down before my lactate got to a certain point because my knee was hurting.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't worth it. So my heart and lungs had developed at a much greater capacity. I had good genetics. My heart and lungs were very fit, but my skeleton and my bones weren't ready to run that fast to produce the level of lactate to where you would actually get enough data to find all the pure zones. And then, of course, when you're doing a blood lactate test, they always want to do VO2 as well. And I'm like, there's no way in hell I could do that. Like my heart and lungs might do it, but my body can't do it.
Well, and I think so, like to come into the space, then like there is such a learning here of all these things. And it's why you have and why I have a whole foundation minus 6 months of foundation of learning how to do stuff. You have, your foundation program before you can step into another world in which you're still supported. And then you can continue as you have mastery and understanding and become the highest technology ever of getting to this point. One thing I want to clarify with you, though, is this. So the 2 weeks on, 1 week off, that's more of an intensity strength building way of thinking about it. What I'm curious about is the specific, okay, we have hypertrophy, so higher reps, strength training, what we can do at home typically. We can add body weight, lots more body weight kind of functional, adding more tempo into our strength training, for example. So that's like our hypertrophy strength training. Then we have our functional strength training, really thinking about all those smaller and ancillary movements or something. And then we can have our lift heavy training, low rep. Do you believe, or do you think of variation within having that 2 week on, 1 week off, and cycling the body also through different ways of stress in it throughout the year if you are just wanting to play all the time?
Yes. Yes. So I would call that, so I have 5 phases that I've actually just kind of coined that have make it really easy for people to understand. It's kind of all based on air travel. So we have our pre-flight programs, which are mobility and activation and joint function. Those are our pre-flight programs. And so if somebody's going out for a key run and they say, what should I do? Then I'll say, do a pre-flight, any of the pre-flight programs.
I love that.
And they take 10 to 15 minutes.
It's like, these are your glutes. Hello, glutes.
Exactly.
Get ready to do something.
And then there's strength endurance and skill development. And for me, that's like, you're now in your seat and we're going to launch. And so those are called launch programs. And they're lighter weights, more movement focused, and more skill developing. Yeah. Then there's climb. And climb, we're getting up to cruising altitude. And climb workouts, there's a very close relationship between muscle development, which is hypertrophy, and strength development. Muscle hypertrophy, 8 to 12 repetitions to failure at 12. 60 to 90 seconds of rest between sets. So when you're trying to develop and make a muscle grow, you're usually starting the next set before you're really ready to start the set. So you work to failure with high skill, you get 60 to 90 seconds. If you're ready to go at 45, that set wasn't heavy enough. And we don't know whether it was because you didn't have the skill to work that hard and dig in and maintain form. And that's where you would need a spotter, is for the last 2 or 3 repetitions. And that's why going to a gym is nice sometimes, because at home, working to that full end of this is all I got, and I'm going to try and eke out one more rep, because that's the stimulus that produces a change in muscle size. Yeah. So muscle hypertrophy, some people, there's 3 main body types that we would identify: an ectomorph, a mesomorph, and an endomorph. I am kind of a combination ecto-meso. I'm kind of skinny, but I can develop muscle. There's a mesomorph that comes out of the womb with muscle, and they don't really need that kind of training, because that muscle, they're really happy with their muscle that they have. They don't want to get bigger. Yeah. Women are wonderful to chat with about that, because it's beautiful to be a strong woman, but not every female is really comfortable having huge shoulders or a ripped chest or a pop back, like that.
Yeah.
A lot of us would pay big money to look just like that.
Yeah, I pop like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a gift. It's a beautiful thing. And then there's the endomorph, which is more of a rounded type body, which they really struggle to build muscle. So an ectomorph and an endomorph, I might really keep them in that hypertrophy and really teach them to be skilled at 8 to 12 reps, teach them how to learn how to work hard for that longer duration. That's where you get the burn.
Yeah.
Strength, on the other hand, is 3 to 6 repetitions.
Yeah.
2 to 3 minutes between sets.
Yeah.
And that's where people start to get, if you're really purposeful in your strength development, then you don't mind waiting 2 to 3 minutes between sets, because that is the science. That is the truth. Mm-hmm. Most people get bored. And so where there's this little bit of art history that comes in coaching is like, okay, I'm going to give you a different challenge. Right after your deadlifts, your 6 heavy deadlifts, you now have a 2-minute break. How can I work on stability? Single leg stance. How can I work on a little bit of core activation? Maybe a 20-second low plank. Maybe work on some more grip strength on something. I don't know. That wouldn't be my first choice, actually. But there's ways to fill the time that still allow your body, your system, your energy system to recover, but create a little bit more good use of time, rather than just get on your phone and wait for 2 to 3 minutes. It's also hard to be a trainer because there's only so many stories you can tell people in between sets. Yeah,
my strength coach, or one of my strength coaches, Ashley, she's like, and then you get a really good podcast.
Right. It's really a challenge.
She's like, don't try to go to the gym without a good podcast and lifting heavy. Go nuts, but use it as a time to learn how to breathe, do your flower blooms, do these things that we are just like always strapped for time. Well, you're there. You now
setting
have
a timer is a really good idea. And an endurance athlete, I actually could challenge the science. And I think, remember, science and studies are only as good as the people that they're studying. And if you're going to train this, we're going to stick to, 3 to 6 reps or 5 to 7 reps with 2 to 3 minutes between sets. Those studies were not done on marathon runners or triathletes or, people that had really developed cardiovascular systems. My question would be, and I think we're probably pretty accurate, we probably don't need to be 3 minutes. We're probably closer to 2. And maybe even at 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Like, there's ways that we can still get what we're after, which is strength and that tug on the bone and that tendon strength and whatnot, without the 3 to 5 minutes between,
Yeah. Okay. So you've now given us the understanding of the different variations of, how do we do the strength? So then how are you balancing or helping us move through different timings and variations throughout the year?
You should be excited about the next phase of training, so the understanding of there's 2 different ways to periodize a program. One is a linear periodization, where we're just going to focus on just strength for 2 weeks, and then we're going to let you rest for a week, or you're still going to be active, but you're not going to lift heavy for a week. Then we're going to come back and we're going to lift nothing but heavy. There's 3 to 6 reps. There's also a way of doing that called undulating periodization. Yeah. And that means maybe on Monday we go really heavy, and maybe we'll do a climb workout. And then the other thing Stacy talks about with menopausal and perimenopausal women is we do have the capacity to go Tuesday and Wednesday, lift. So we don't always need to take a day in between. And I've really embraced that. So I think the reason I've had really high adherence, and there's always curiosity and people are excited about what's going to happen next week, is because Mondays are always mobility. Tuesdays are strength days. Wednesday, climb strength. So it could be heavy.
Yeah.
Wednesdays are usually a launch strength day. So I can interchange those sometimes, but they're going to get strength on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Thursday, I love foundation training with Dr. Eric Goodman. I'm a level 2 certified instructor with Doc. And I believe in that bringing the body back to balance, bringing it back into right left balance, bringing it, decompressing the spine and elevating the rib cage and expanding the rib cage and keeping the hips really mobile. So that is a practice where someone else might jump into a yoga class. To me, foundation training is a little bit more geared towards performance because there's tension in the system. We're not trying to get tension out of the system. So that's a little bit of a different, it's in conflict with a lot of yoga principles.
Interesting.
Friday is usually an off day in the gym. And so that you can come and do some stuff on Saturday, and we usually will have a lift on Saturday as well. So we'll go Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday are usually our lift days.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting. So you continues to have a variation within each week, as opposed to, like there's so many ways that you could cut
Yeah.
cut it.
So if we just,
But it's like you continue to have the variation within the week to continue to have the foundation of health, the strength that you're building, in the variation of strength, be it strength or hypertrophy or whatever. And it also is dependent on the athlete and what they need. But in general, those are the pieces in which you're looking at and can be done year round.
100%. And then if somebody comes at me, and it's funny because I train a lot of men as well, and I train a lot of marathoners. And once you dig below a few different layers, and you're like, would you like to build some muscle in getting fat faster? And the guys are like, yes, I think my wife would really like it if I actually had some muscles in my upper body. And I'm like, okay, I'll send you a different program for that, because that should be part of the plan. And that, I think, comes into health. Like anytime a man or a woman, and we can't deny the fact that we want to be attractive for our spouse, or we want to be attractive just because it makes us feel good, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of that. I don't think I would have ever made it as a personal trainer in LA, because for me, that cannot be the primary motivator. Aesthetics are the byproduct of a great, healthy, performance-based athlete. And those are the people I'm attracted to as partnerships, is people that want to really live their best life, enjoy the planet, go do stuff. I hate it when people just get fit to be gym fit. That's very not motivating. It's like, oh wow, last week you bench pressed 90 and this week you did 92.5. I am like so stoked.
Yeah.
I love that story of, I just spent 2 weeks riding my bike from northern Italy through Austria. And I'm like, yes.
It's experiential. It's a different, I mean, it's a different, not to say there's anything wrong with the person who wants to do that. You know, it's just is where you're attracted to. And I get it.
People, and people that do come to me for aesthetic purposes, it usually takes me about 2 weeks to get them to, I'm like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Like, cause that's like, who do you want to be? What mountain do you want to climb? Let's find one. And
it's
before you
translating.
know it, they want to. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I call it like finding your start line. It's translating your beingness in your body into the world that is like, I'm so attuned with our natural world, because our bodies are attuned to the natural world, like sunlight.
Yes.
Darkness, and body, every cell is connected.
Yeah. And walking on the beach and watching a sunset and,
sensory,
you know, and I have an 85-year-old guy that was a professor here at the University of Colorado. And I've trained him for 15 years. And when we first started training together, I said, just get ready, Gary, because you're going to have to skew to younger friends, because there's going to come this shift that your friends who are not actively training like you are, they're going to get old. And it's going to be a hard time. And we're going through those times right now, he and I together. And I'm, you know, trainers and coaches become part of your family. And that's just who we become. And,
truly.
you know, Gary is 85. He just got back from a conference in Oxford. He was totally confident to go get himself on an airplane. He went and bought a bunch of new clothes. Like, it was just like, it's just, that's what we want. And Dr. Peter Attia, are you familiar?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
I'm a subscriber.
I was driving to the airport. I have driven to the airport in Denver hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah.
He introduced that concept of your marginal decade.
Oh, I love it.
I missed the exit because it was simple. but it was mind blowing to think, I've been doing this, I've been talking about this, but I never gave it a name. Like, so when you're 40, everything you're doing when you're 40 is going to help you when you're 80. If that's your marginal decade. If 90 is your marginal decade, it's still going to help you, but your vision might be different, you know? And that's an exciting prospect. And we're getting older. That's part of life. How we choose to accept that and rock that time is up to us.
It's a really interesting, and so I do follow him. Obviously, I get the show notes. Because I can't.
That was so simple.
I can't take that much information in without actually reading some of it. So what's fascinating about the whole psychology about that is looking at, when we look at behavior and creating change, looking into the future doesn't work for people. And yet there's this real importance of understanding, do you want that marginal decade? What do you want that to look like? Because that's your now.
Yes.
And trying to pull that together but it still isn't necessarily going to create the change unless we can actually visualize and say, where do you want to be?
Yeah.
And it's really fascinating to get into that and to take that on and to say, is what I want, is my why enough now so that it influences my why later, and to connect those two. It's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And to look at yourself as a leader, because even if you're not naturally a leader, we are all leaders. So if you're a mom, you're a leader for your children. If you're a partner, you're a partner to your spouse. If you are around anybody young, we had over 100 employees at our club, and they were like my kids. Those were my kids. Now I have different kids. I just adopt everyone else's kids, but it's, you're a leader for them. Everything you do, every moment you spend. And it's interesting because when you're 40, you do feel a little bit invincible. When you're 30, you don't even get it. But when you get to 50, the shit's getting real. And it was a shift, but it was a positive shift for me to get into this 50th decade here, because 60 is right around the corner. I'm taking tons of collagen. I use boatloads of sunscreen. I was lucky enough to train a lot of Hollywood people in my 20s. And they were older than me then. And it was like, okay, Erin, if I give you one piece of advice, sunscreen, wear your sunscreen. And I grew up in Vancouver, just out of it. So I didn't really grow up in the sun. So living in Colorado, we have over 300 days of sunshine, and I'm a little bit pasty sometimes around here, but there are things, and just accepting that you're a leader and making the hard decisions to get out of bed and go to the gym. And it's not just you, it's everybody around you.
It's true. We inspire in ways that we don't even know, and we influence in ways that we don't know. And it can go two ways. So really important.
The lifting and the strength, though, I just keep circling back on it, because you only have to spend a little bit of time with an older person who didn't have the opportunity to embrace strength training at this stage of their life, to see how the body changes without it is not pretty. And posture is everything, and the strength in your back and the position of your head and the position of your pelvis. It's all held in place by a strong muscle system. So finding joy and finding some intrigue and curiosity in lifting weights. Let me just also be really clear. You do not have to spend an hour in the gym. For some reason, everybody thinks they need an hour. You really can get a lot done in 20 to 30 minutes. So,
somebody said once to me, it was because we were originally personal trainers, were paid by the hour.
Yep.
So everything has just gravitated to being an hour, because it's just what we do. We have hour-long everything's.
Yeah.
If you don't get an hour, it's not worth it. You didn't get your money's worth. And we have to really shift our brains on that. It has nothing to do with it.
Stuff up to take up the hour.
Yeah.
It's not even good. I think with, especially with my endurance athletes, which are a lot of them, The sessions are 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And over time now, we've got enough success stories. We've got Ironman athletes. We've got world champions. We've got medals in the Olympics. And we do not do an hour. And I get so much joy in that. Okay, we're done. Well, it's only been 35 minutes. You're good. Trust me. And they trust me now. And I love that. And their performances are just, they're getting better and better. And that's the key.
And I just want to state, at every stage of life, it's enough. It doesn't just because you're losing muscle or losing estrogen, which, you feel like you need to do more. You don't need to do more. You need to do right.
Exactly. And be consistent. And if you are sore for 3 days, that means you're missing 2 days of training. Yeah. It's okay that if it happens every now and then, but if it happens consistently, you're barking up the wrong tree, and pain is never good. It's a sign. It can teach us a lot. We have to pull stuff back, and when there's periods of our life that are stressful, we need to go into those pre-flight and launch sessions. And I get those calls all the time. It's like, okay, I'm going to lose my job. Like, we're going to go into a really crazy time in these next 12 to 18 months. And people's stress level is going to come higher. And if you have good skill, you can lift heavy weights 20 to 30 minutes and help that stress level. But when you start going into 45 and 50, especially if you're over the age of 40, that cortisol spike is just going to go higher and higher, where you could get away with it when your life was a little bit easier. The expectations weren't so high. There was more money in the bank. Now it's going to get a little scary. So I encourage people, let's prepare for that. How am I going to deal with stressful times? 62-year-old guy. Yeah, well, thank you. I've got a client today that came in and he just got an Aura ring. He's in his third week of just collecting data, because I always say nothing matters except for just wear it and we'll figure you out. But he just found out he's going to lose his job. He needs a new job. He's at 62. That's a scary time of life to go look for a job. So I shifted his workout immediately. Like, I didn't know this until he came to the training session, and I had been in Kona for 2 weeks. So he came in and he told me what was going on in his life. Boom, changed his workout. Let's move. Let's find rhythm and timing. Let's do everything you're freaking great at, and that we know makes you feel good. And he left. He's like, I feel so much better. Now, did we lift heavy stuff? No. And if he was a female, I probably would have approached it exactly the same. It wouldn't have been the right day to lift heavy stuff. His stress load is too high. So keeping in mind those things, the higher skill you have, the less, the more capacity you have to handle the stress. So develop your skill, get ready, buckle up, and we're going to be fine. We're going to be just.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love you so much.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been phenomenal. Okay, so I do have 3 rapid fire questions. And before I get into them, is there anything else? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that you really want to make sure that the listeners know?
If anybody, you and I will talk, you can put it in the show notes. Let's do a code so we can give anybody and everybody who's listening to this who would like to experience 30 days of my premium program. So anybody that can't come see me one-on-one in person in Boulder jumps on my premium program. And that means we use Training Peaks. Whatever anybody uses, that's how I throw out the program right now. You're going to get all of your workouts put into your Training Peaks account for 4 weeks on the house, on us. And then you can carry on beyond that. I am this person that's just like, just come and have a drink with me. It doesn't matter if you stay. I don't do this for money. I hope you like it enough that you either learn something and share it, or like, there's no expectation. It's just a gift. So you and I will come up with a code that speaks to your audience. And I'd like to just invite anybody who wants to just give it a try to join my world for 30 days.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Okay. So we got the free gift. Awesome. All right. Are you ready for my rapid fire?
Let's go. I love this.
Okay.
Stuff.
What is one thing that you are super excited about in your learning right now?
Probably the most exciting thing I'm learning, or that I'm learning about, is breath work, and how the expansion of the rib cage and the activation of the diaphragm impacts the pelvic floor and hip mobility.
Oh, so like,
I'm into that right now.
Oh, it's big. Hey, it's big.
Yeah.
Another thing that I have my Anne doing, because Anne is an expert at that, because apparently my breath needs some work. All right. One thing that you're grateful for.
I'm so grateful that I have had an amazing professional life, and that I am at this stage of life where I can be a leader and exhale and not be driven by success or numbers or anything like that. So I worked my ass off for a long time, and I'm just thankful for that opportunity to work my ass off, be empowered, be a female, and have the opportunity to achieve, and then I'm healthy.
Oh, I learned so much from you. What is one principle that you live by?
Blessed are those who expect nothing, for they shall never be disappointed.
Oh, good.
And that's good and bad. We could probably have a whole nother one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful statement. You're right. We could talk about that. I mean, I wanted to launch into it, but
that's a big one for me.
Yeah. There's something I'm trying to think of the way of disappointment is unfulfilled expectations. And understanding.
I'm a driver of my own destiny. I'm never a victim or blame anything,
100% responsibility. It's a motto of mine, actually, a principle of mine. Okay, my dear. Well, this has been phenomenal. Thank you for sharing yourself, your knowledge, and bringing us into your world some more and explaining. Thank you for supporting the athletes that I have as well that are doing your program and thriving, and that we can, as a coach of endurance athletes as well, that it works so well. It works so well. I mean, I do have my own strength program and amazing people behind mine, but I still it works so well in coordination.
There's room for everybody,
There's so much room.
That's what we need to be. We need to be just humble, work hard, and learn from each other. So yeah. Thank you. Thanks for being brave and including me in your day too. That's cool.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. Okay. Until next time, because you never know. Okay.
Well,